the job that turned out to be a scam. I thought I had finally landed the perfect job. The salary was great, the benefits sounded amazing, and the company had a super professional website. But what I didn't know, I had just walked into one of the biggest scams of my life. And it took me way too long to figure it out. The too good to be true job offer. So, I had been unemployed for a few months, desperately sending out resumes like my life depended on it. Then one day, I got an email. Congratulations! We've reviewed your application and would love to bring you on board as our new sales coordinator. The weird part? I never actually applied for this job. But I figured, hey, maybe I sent in my resume and forgot about it. Or maybe a recruiter found me on LinkedIn. Either way, I was just happy to have a job offer. The first red flag, no interview needed. I emailed back, saying I was interested. 5 minutes later, I got a response. Great, you're hired. Wait, what? No interview? No Zoom call? No? Tell me about yourself bullshit? Just an instant job offer? It felt too easy. But instead of seeing this as a warning sign, I convinced myself that maybe I just got lucky. The job training, that made no sense. They sent me a welcome packet, a contract, which I did not read properly, rookie mistake, and instructions for my first task. It wasn't anything normal, like setting up an email account or reading company policies. Instead, they wanted me to test the company's payment system. Basically, they sent me a check for $5,000 and told me to deposit it into my personal account, then send most of it back through a secure transfer to an account they provided. Yeah, that's not normal. At this point, my brain was screaming, scam, scam, scam. But I was so desperate for a job that I ignored every red flag. I deposited the check. It cleared. So I thought, oh, it's legit. I sent the money back like they asked. And then 3 days later, my bank called. Sir, the check you deposited was fraudulent. Your account is now negative $5,000. What? I was shaking. But it cleared. How does that happen? Turns out, some fake checks can temporarily clear before the bank realizes they're fraud. So now, I was the one responsible for the missing money. Trying to contact my employer, I immediately emailed my so-called company. Guess what? The email bounced back. Their website was gone. Their phone number didn't work anymore. I had been completely ghosted. At this point, I felt like an absolute idiot. I had scammed myself into debt, calling the bank and the police. I ran to my bank like my life depended on it. I explained the situation, showed them all the emails, and begged them to fix it. Their response? Unfortunately, because you willingly deposited the check and transferred the money, there's nothing we can do. I was screwed. I even went to the police, but all they said was, yeah, these scams happen all the time. It's almost impossible to catch them. Great. Just great. Digging deeper into the scam. At this point, I was determined to at least understand how badly I had been played. I started researching similar scams, and guess what I found? This fake company had been operating under different names for years. They constantly changed websites and used fake business addresses to make themselves look real. Hundreds of people had fallen for it. Some had lost thousands more than me. And here's the worst part. They specifically targeted job seekers because they knew desperate people ignore red flags. Crawling out of the mess. I spent the next 6 months trying to recover financially. I had to take a real job that paid way less just to cover my losses. I basically ate instant noodles every day and had to tell my landlord, yeah, about that rent. I need an extension. It was humiliating. But you know what? I learned my lesson. How to spot a job scam, aka, how to not be me. If you're ever job hunting, here's what I wish I had known. If they hire you without an interview, it's fake. If they send you money before you've done any work, it's fake. If they ask you to use your personal bank account, it's fake. If their company website disappears overnight, if your gut says something's off, trust it. The aftermath. It took me a long time to get over how stupid I felt. But now, whenever I hear someone say, I got a job offer and they want me to transfer some money first, I immediately yell, do not do it. It's a scam. Because trust me, you do not want to learn this lesson the hard way. I got my boss fired by accident. I never planned on getting my boss fired. In fact, I wasn't even trying to cause trouble. All I wanted to do was do my job, get paid, and go home. But somehow, in the most unexpected way possible, I exposed one of the biggest workplace scandals my company had ever seen. And it all started with a missing sandwich. My boss, Mark, was the kind of manager who should never have been put in charge of anything. He didn't do any actual work, but he was always busy. He sent emails at 2 a.m. just to look productive. He micromanaged everything except for the things he actually needed to manage. And the worst part? He took credit for everything. I'd write a report, he'd slap his name on it. I'd pitch an idea in a meeting. Suddenly, it was his idea. And if anything went wrong, it was my fault. It was hell. But I needed the job, so I kept my head down and just tried to survive. Until one day, everything changed. It was a normal Tuesday. I had brought my lunch from home, a carefully packed, homemade sandwich that I was very excited to eat. Around noon, I went to the office fridge, opened the door, and my sandwich was gone. At first, I thought maybe I had left it at home. But then, as I turned around, I saw something that made my blood boil. Sitting at his desk, eating my sandwich. No shame, no hesitation. Just stuffing his face with my lunch while typing away like it was nothing. I walked up to him, trying to keep my cool. Mark? That looks a lot like my sandwich. He barely looked up. Oh, was that yours? I thought it was free game. Free game? Who the hell thinks a labeled, packed lunch in the fridge is free game? I should have let it go. I should have just been the bigger person. But I was hungry. And I had had enough. I decided to get back at him in the pettiest way possible. The next day, I brought in another sandwich. But this time, I made it with the most disgusting ingredients I could find. Canned tuna mixed with peanut butter. Way too much hot sauce. A hidden layer of salt so strong it could dehydrate a horse. Then, I wrapped it up exactly like my usual lunch and left it in the fridge. Sure enough, Mark took the bait. I watched from my desk as he unwrapped it, took a huge bite, and immediately spat it out. His face turned red. His eyes watered. "What the hell is this?" he coughed. I smiled sweetly. "Oh, that? Just my special homemade sandwich. You know, since you like to eat my food." The whole office erupted in laughter. Mark was pissed. But instead of apologizing, he doubled down. "You poisoned me," he shouted. "I could report you for this." "Oh, really? You mean, like how I could report you for stealing my lunch every day for the past 6 months? Yeah. That's what I thought. How it escalated. Mark was furious. He spent the whole day glaring at me like he was plotting my murder. Then, the next morning, I got called into HR. Apparently, Mark had actually reported me. For food tampering. I couldn't believe it. This guy stole my food, and now I was in trouble? But what Mark didn't realize. HR hated him. I sat down with the HR manager, who sighed and rubbed her temples. "Look, Mark is making a big deal about this. But off the record, we all know he's been stealing food." Then she asked me something that changed everything. "Do you have proof?" "Honey, did I have proof?" I had receipts. See, I had been passive-aggressively documenting every time my food went missing. I had emails to HR, Slack messages to coworkers, and even a video. Yeah, that's right. I had set up a tiny phone camera near the fridge after my lunches kept disappearing. And guess what? I had footage of Mark stealing food every single day. HR loved this. "Send us everything," they said. "We're going to look into this." At first, I thought Mark was just going to get a slap on the wrist. Maybe an official warning, maybe a "don't steal your employees' food" dumbass talk. But then, they dug deeper. Apparently, while investigating the food theft, HR found some other things. Like how Mark had been inflating expense reports. Or how he had been lying about project deadlines to make himself look good. Or how he had been giving himself unauthorized bonuses. Basically, he was a walking fraud case. And guess what? My stupid sandwich incident was the thing that finally made HR pay attention. The grand finale. A week later, Mark was called into a serious HR meeting. 2 hours later, He was escorted out of the building. Fired. Gone. The office threw a mini celebration. Someone even printed out a sign that said, "R.I.P. Mark's career, fired over a stolen sandwich." I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Turns out, Mark had been on thin ice for years. The only reason he lasted so long was because no one had hard proof of his bullshit. But my dumb little sandwich revenge? That was the match that lit the fire. And now, every time I bring lunch to work, I eat it with a big-ass smile on my face. Because sometimes, petty revenge leads to big consequences. The coworker who tried to get me fired. I've always been the type of person who just wants to go to work, do my job, and go home. No office drama, no petty fights, just work, paycheck, repeat. But apparently, that was too much to ask. Because one day, I found myself in the middle of a corporate war that I never signed up for. A war started by a jealous coworker who decided that the best way to succeed was to get me fired. The start of the office Cold War. Her name was Karen. Yeah, I know. Fitting. She had been at the company longer than me, but from day one, I could tell she hated my existence. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe she just had resting bitch face. Maybe she just wasn't friendly. But nope. It was personal. It started small, passive-aggressive comments, conveniently forgetting to CC me on important emails, rolling her eyes whenever I spoke in meetings. Annoying? But fireable? Not even close. So I just ignored her and kept working. Which, apparently, pissed her off even more. One day, my boss pulled me aside and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you about some concerns." Immediately, my stomach dropped. Because I knew for a fact I hadn't done anything wrong. Karen mentioned that you've been missing deadlines. Karen said you're not being a team player. Karen said you've been late to meetings. I was stunned. Because not only were these things blatantly false, but I had actual proof that Karen was lying. So I calmly pulled up my emails, my project logs, and my calendar. And just like that, every single accusation fell apart. You'd think that after getting caught red-handed, Karen would back off, right? If anything, she doubled down. The next few weeks were a nightmare. She, accidentally, deleted my project files from the shared drive. She booked fake meetings on my calendar so I'd show up to empty rooms. She told clients I was on vacation when I wasn't, so I missed emails. It was insane. At this point, I knew I had two options. Let her win and get pushed out. Fight back. Guess which one I chose? I started documenting everything. Screenshots, email timestamps, even recordings of her saying things in meetings. Then I started being overly polite to her. Because nothing confuses a manipulative person more than fake kindness. "Oh, Karen, did you mean to delete my files?" "No worries. I already sent a copy to our manager." "Oh, you must have forgotten to invite me to that meeting. I just got caught up with the team directly." The more chill I was, the angrier she got. And then, finally, she messed up. One day, I caught her red-handed forwarding one of my reports, but with her name on it. She literally stole my work and sent it to the boss as if it was hers. Big mistake. Because little did she know, I had already sent the original report an hour before. When my boss saw two identical reports, with two different names, he called us both into his office. Karen tried to play dumb. "Oh, I must have mixed up the files." But then I pulled out the timestamps. The emails. The undeniable proof that she was a lying, backstabbing snake. Her face? Priceless. And my boss? Absolutely livid. Karen got put on probation. A month later? She quit. Translation, she got fired. And me? I got a promotion. Because nothing screams corporate justice like watching your worst enemy self-destruct. And to this day, I still live by one rule. Keep the receipts. Because some people will try to ruin you, and the best revenge is letting them ruin themselves. I got hired and fired before I even started. Getting a new job is supposed to be exciting, right? You send in your resume, you nail the interview, you get the call saying, "Congratulations. You're hired," and then you start planning your first day. Well, apparently, in my case, the excitement lasted about 5 minutes. Because somehow, I got fired from a job before I even started. And to this day, I'm still not sure how the hell it happened. The perfect job offer. So, I had been unemployed for a few months and was desperate to land something, anything, that paid my bills. Then one day, I got a call from a company I had applied to weeks ago. "Hi, Sam. We loved your interview, and we'd love to offer you the position. Can you start next Monday?" I was thrilled. I thanked them, accepted the offer immediately, and even went out to celebrate with some drinks that night. I texted my friends, my mom, even updated my LinkedIn. The first red flag, the mysterious email. The next morning, I woke up hungover but happy, ready to start planning for my new job. Then I checked my email, and there it was. Urgent, regarding your employment. I opened it, heart pounding. "Dear Sam, we regret to inform you that due to unforeseen circumstances, your job offer has been rescinded. You will no longer be starting on Monday. Apologies for any inconvenience." Excuse me, what? I reread the email 3 times. I had been hired less than 24 hours ago. What the hell could have changed overnight? I grabbed my phone and called the recruiter immediately. No answer. I emailed. No response. By noon, their number was disconnected. Did my job even exist? At this point, I was spiraling. Did I dream the entire thing? Was I being pranked? Was the company some kind of money laundering front that accidentally hired me and then panicked? I started digging. I checked their LinkedIn, their website, their social media. And that's when I noticed something weird. The company's entire staff list had changed overnight. New names. New faces. It was like the entire office got wiped and replaced. What the hell was going on? Finally, after 2 days of radio silence, I got a DM from someone who used to work there. "Hey, I saw your LinkedIn update. Just a heads up, don't list that company as your employer." Things got complicated. Complicated? What does that mean? After some pushing, they finally spilled the truth. Turns out, the company had been bought out overnight. And when the new management came in, they fired everyone. And since I hadn't even started yet, I was automatically fired too. I never even got to step inside the building. So yeah, that's how I got hired, and then immediately unhired before I even had a desk. The worst part? I had already turned down another job offer to accept this one. So now I was not only unemployed, but I was back to square one. Moral of the story? Never celebrate a job until you actually start. Because apparently, nothing is real until you get your first paycheck. The job interview from hell. I had been unemployed for a while, so when I finally got an interview for a high-paying corporate position, I was beyond excited. The job description was a little vague, but honestly, I didn't care. I needed the job, and at this point, I was willing to do almost anything short of selling a kidney. I prepared like crazy, ironed my best suit, rehearsed answers in the mirror, even Googled how to impress hiring managers. I was ready, or so I thought. Because nothing could have prepared me for the absolute nightmare that was about to unfold. Red flag number 1. The office looked suspiciously empty. I arrived at the company's headquarters, expecting a huge, buzzing corporate environment. Instead, the place was dead silent. No employees rushing around, no reception desk, not even a coffee machine humming in the background. Just me, standing awkwardly in an empty waiting area. Still, I shook off the weird vibes. Maybe it was just a slow day. Big mistake. Red flag number 2. The interviewer looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. Eventually, a guy walked in. Disheveled suit. Wild eyes. Looked like he had been surviving off caffeine and regret. "You're here for the interview?" he asked, barely looking at me. "Yes, sir," I said, standing up straight, trying to sound professional. He grunted. "Follow me." No handshake. No small talk. Just follow me. I should have walked away right then and there. But like an idiot, I followed him. Red flag number 3. The questions were insane. We entered a small, dimly lit office. No windows. Just a desk, 2 chairs, and an overwhelming sense of doom. He sat down, opened a completely blank notepad and said, "All right, first question. If the CEO told you to burn down the building, would you do it?" Excuse me? I let out an awkward laugh. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? He scribbled something on his blank notepad. Not a team player, he muttered. What? I tried to regain my composure. Well, I try to find a more legal solution to whatever problem. Next question. He cut me off. If you saw your manager stealing money, would you report them or help them? What kind of question was that? I would report them. I answered hesitantly. He sighed, shaking his head. You need to work on your company loyalty. At this point, I was 90% sure I had walked into some kind of illegal operation. But before I could escape, he hit me with the next question. If two employees got into a physical fight, what would you do? Separate them? He smirked. Wrong. You record it for evidence. And send it to HR. HR loves drama. I wanted to cry. Red flag number 4. The pay seemed suspiciously high. Then, just as I was about to fake a seizure to get out of there, he abruptly closed the notepad and leaned forward. Alright, I like you. Do you? Because it doesn't seem like it. We'll start you at $150,000 a year. You in? I nearly choked. I had been applying for jobs that barely paid $50,000. And now this sketchy, sleep-deprived man was throwing 6 figures at me after 10 minutes of nonsense questions? Something was very wrong. Red flag number 5. The contract. I hesitated. Before I say yes, could I see the job contract? He smiled. A full, teeth-showing, terrifying smile. Of course. He pulled out a 25-page contract and shoved it toward me. I skimmed it. Then I saw the fine print. Employee agrees to work a minimum of 90 hours per week. Vacation days are earned through performance-based metrics. Sick days are unpaid. Employee agrees to complete any and all tasks requested by management, regardless of legality. Leaving the company before 5 years results in a $50,000 penalty fee. What the actual hell? So, he said, staring at me, do we have a deal? My survival instincts finally kicked in. I laughed awkwardly. You know what? I just remembered, I have another interview in an hour. Let me think about it and get back to you. Once you leave, the offer expires. His smile disappeared. Oh cool. That's not terrifying at all. That's fine. I grabbed my bag and stood up. Sam. I froze. You made it this far. Don't make a mistake. I backed toward the door, hand already on the handle. I'll think about it. I ran. Literally sprinted out of that building like my life depended on it. Because honestly, it probably did. A week later, I checked the company's website again. Guess what? It was gone. Like, completely wiped from the internet. No LinkedIn. No Google results. Nothing. It was like the company never existed. To this day, I have no idea what that job actually was. Corporate espionage? Money laundering? A secret cult? All I know is I dodged a bullet. And now, I actually read contracts before I sign anything.